Dave Chappelle, an American actor and comedian, has relentlessly mocked woke culture with his provocative humor. Despite backlash and censorship, the legendary comedian remains determined to tackle the woke ideology whenever he has the opportunity. Here, Dave is in a comedy show where he took a slash on the woke community.
If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan, that's not gonna work. How I feel, why should I go how you feel? The pronoun. But there was no time for philosophical debate. This was an emergency situation. I said, fine. Sorry guys, I was just worried because she looks terrible.
One of Chappelle's most famous bits revolves around what he calls the alphabet people. He notes an unwritten rule in comedy and show business. One can poke fun at nearly anything except the woke community. Is it just a joke or a sharp look at the boundaries society puts on humor?
And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people. You know who I mean. Those people that took 20% of the alphabet for themselves.
He jokes about the letters in the LGBTQ+ acronyms, blending humor with critique as he considers the unity within the diverse community. Yet, Chappelle's purpose here isn't to insult. It's to use satire to encourage conversations about the divisions and assumptions that these labels create.
I'd say the letters, but I don't want to conjure their anger. It's too late now. I'm talking about them L's and them B's and them G's and the T's. People be surprised. I have friends, all kinds of letters. Everybody loves me, and I love everybody. I got friends who are L's, I got friends who are B's, and I got friends who are G's. But the T's hate my fucking guts.
Dave's words were deliberately aimed at challenging woke ideology. He didn't hold back on his opinion, and his sharp and hilarious delivery visibly fired up the crowd. Dave Chappelle accused himself of causing all the issues as he boldly claimed to be unable to stop making jokes about the LGBT community. He believes he is ready to deal with whatever consequences he ensures.
And I don't blame them. It's not their fault, it's mine. I can't stop telling jokes about these niggas. I don't want to write these jokes, but I just can't stop. You know, you hear all those letters together all the time, LBGT, LBGT, and you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together.
Next, we have Chappelle's recent performance, which begins with a humorous but insightful story about meeting Jim Carrey while filming Man on the Moon, a movie in which Carrey famously embodied the late comedian Andy Kaufman.
Yes, and Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role. When they said cut, this nigga was still Andy Kaufman.
So committed was Carrey to the role that he continued to live as Kaufman even off camera.
And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello.
For Chappelle, this encounter was both inspiring and bizarre.
How fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that.
As he wanted to meet Jim Carrey, but instead found himself face to face with Andy.
I was very disappointed. And I had to pretend this nigga was Andy Kaufman.
Using this anecdote, Chappelle humorously draws a parallel to his perspective on identity in the trans community, noting that what you see on the surface may not be what's truly there. This story isn't meant to mock identity. Instead, it lays the groundwork for Chappelle's critique on the complexities surrounding how people understand and express their identities.
Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
This reflection feeds directly into Chappelle's broader commentary on gender, identity, and the societal pressure to conform to new norms. He highlights how complex and layered these conversations have become, often in ways that blur the lines of individual perception and reality. Chappelle dives into the complexities of equality with his infamous hypothetical joke about NBA star LeBron James. He imagines a scenario in which James identifies as a woman and then questions whether he should compete in the NBA or the WNBA. His punchline, where he'd score 840 points a game, pushes audiences to consider the implication of erasing gender distinctions in certain spaces. Is it a joke about sports, or is it confronting the larger, thorny question of how society defines fairness and equality?
When I watch sports, I be thinking about, think about, okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
Chappelle's commentary goes beyond sports to challenge how society handles the differences between men and women. He raises uncomfortable questions that lie at the heart of debates surrounding equality, inclusion, and the role of gender. His message is clear. Fairness is nuanced, and while equality is vital, understanding the practical implications is equally important.
What does it actually mean to be equal? You know what I mean? Like, if women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? You would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us. Or, here's another idea that's gonna be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.
One of Chappelle's most talked about moments involves Caitlyn Jenner, who won Woman of the Year in her first year of publicly identifying as a woman. With his trademark irreverence, Chappelle jokes about how she outpaced every other woman in America for the title, despite only recently coming into her identity. Is Chappelle's humor a critical reflection on how society sometimes bends the rules in ways that might be seen as unfair or at the very least unusual?
Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit, she's better than all of you.
Chappelle uses this moment not to criticize Jenner directly, but to explore how society rewards certain narratives, even when they may feel discordant.
Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. I'd be mad if I was me. If I was in a BET Awards sitting there and they're like, and the winner for of the year, Eminem, my man.
This satirical critique shines a light on what Chappelle sees as society's selective criteria for recognition and acceptance, sparking questions about the standards by which achievements are measured and celebrated.
Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on Earth, had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on Earth. That is a fact.
Do you think Chappelle is using this moment to question how society rewards certain narratives even when they feel discordant? And what does it say about the selective criteria for recognition and acceptance? Chappelle then moves into another controversial example. Rachel Dolezal, a white woman who famously identified as black and rose to prominence within the black community before her background was revealed.
It's like that white black bitch that's in the news all the time. Rachel Dolezal. She always says that. She's a white woman, but then she dressed up like a nigga. And
Chappelle uses Dolezal's story as parallel to discussions of gender identity, humorously noting that while he might not fully understand transgender people.
And I always wanted to meet her just so I could understand. I just wanted to like have dinner with her so I could just look in her eyes and call her to her face.
He believes in their sincerity because of the extent to which they commit to affirming their identity.
What the fuck is that bitch talking about? I identify black. That is trans talk, lady. Stop biting. Stop biting. There's a big difference between her and a trans. The difference between her and a trans is I believe transgenders.
In this routine, Chappelle sheds light on the complexities surrounding race and identity, poking at societal standards and asking audiences to consider the sometimes arbitrary lines society draws. For Chappelle, the Dolezal story becomes an entry point into a broader commentary on nuances of identity and how we choose to categorize people.
Them niggas cut their dicks off. That's all the proof I need. I've never seen somebody just throw their dick away. Don't need it.
A recurring theme in Chappelle's work is his outspoken disdain for cancel culture, which he views as stifling free expression. He likens cancel culture to a relentless celebrity hunting season, where no one is safe from scrutiny.
If you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're fucking finished.
I don't think I did anything wrong, he says, acknowledging the backlash while maintaining his right to his viewpoint. It is worth noting that Chappelle's humor here isn't just for laughs. It's a direct critique of a societal mechanism that he believes threatens the essence of comedy.
Who's that? That's you.
In today's world, where the potential for offense is high and tolerance for different opinions can be low, Chappelle stands firmly against what he perceives as a culture of censorship. He speaks to an essential aspect of his artistry, the freedom to push boundaries and question societal norms without the fear of being cancelled. For Chappelle, the risk is worth it because in his view, comedy loses its potency if it must conform to unyielding social rules.
That's what the audience sounds like to me. That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all niggas is the worst motherfuckers I've ever tried to entertain in my fucking life.
Chappelle's recent run-in with Netflix brought this debate to the forefront. The media framed the situation as a clash between Chappelle and Netflix transgender employees, with claims that he refused an invitation to discuss his material.
I had written a sketch that had the word in it.
Chappelle clarifies that no such invitation was extended, but if it were, he would accept. Yet, he insists that his disagreements aren't with the LGBTQ+ community, but with the corporate censorship that limits what comedians can say.
So I had to go to standards and practices. They call me up. I don't know why they're calling me, but I like the lady that runs the department. She's usually really fair and was one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. So she sits me down. We have a nice conversation. She tells me, oh, the sketches are great. I go, oh, fantastic. Well, then why am I here? She said, because, David, there's no way that you can ever say the word on our network.
To Chappelle, this controversy represents a broader issue of corporate interests shaping public discourse. He sees this as a dangerous precedent that limits the kind of humor that can be produced, framing his comedy as a form of resistance against the forces that seek to regulate free speech in the entertainment industry. To Chappelle, comedy is at its best when it challenges audiences, pushing them out of their comfort zone. He resists the notion that he must tailor his humor to avoid offending anyone, believing that doing so compromises the essence of stand-up comedy. His frustration reflects a larger cultural conversation about the role of comedians as truth tellers and boundary pushers in an era increasingly defined by restraint. What do you think about Dave Chappelle's ongoing battle with woke culture, cancel culture, and societal expectations? His humor confronts the paradoxes of identity, equality, and free speech, refusing to back down despite mounting pushbacks. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to have more honest conversations.